ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਨਸੀ ਹਮਲਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਕਈ ਦੋਸ਼ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵੈਸਟਰਨ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਕਈ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਕਲਾਸਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਾਈਕਾਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕੈਂਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੁਜ਼ਾਹਰਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਦੁਪਹਿਰ ਸਮੇਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਕਲਾਸਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਆਏ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਕੂਲਸ ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੋਸ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਂਡਲ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਨਾਰਾਜ਼ ਨੇ।
Know what it's like to walk past the site of the most traumatic experience of your life every day just to get to class.
As the clock struck 12 noon, thousands of Western University students left their classes and gathered outside to join a chorus of voices in protest against sexual violence.
I wish someone had told me that it wasn't my fault and would keep repeating it until it made sense in my head.
Into what they call a culture of misogyny on campus.
It's a hard thing to talk about, especially when you're so afraid.
The system works against survivors. The survivors of this past week do not need to subject themselves to a cruel and unjust procedure in order for their experiences to be real.
The students, both men and women, moved to assemble out of anger.
It shouldn't have happened, this terrible, the past week and so many years prior.
Frustration and fear.
It's been pretty scary. I don't know, walking around campus, it's kind of not, it doesn't feel the same.
And knowing it's everybody's responsibility to affect change.
If you see something, say something, and clearly that's not been happening, and hopefully it's going to start changing now.
Sending a message straight to the head of the university.
Alan Shepard has said our campus is safe. Safe for who? Alan Shepard, do you know what it's like to be unsafe? Not just feel unsafe, but actually be unsafe where you live. Do you know what it's like to walk past the site? Do you know what it's like to walk past the site of the most traumatic experience of your life every day just to get to class?
No more silence! Thousands of voices join together in the hope somebody is listening.
Earlier, would the institution have done anything to help prevent future incidents from occurring? Of course, none of these sentiments mattered after learning that up to 30 lives had been forever altered.
You know what it's like to walk past the site of the most traumatic experience of your life every day just to get to class.
ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਦੇ ਤੇਜ਼ੀ ਨਾਲ ਵਧ ਰਹੇ ਮਾਮਲਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਆਗੂਆਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਦੋਸ਼ ਲਗਾਏ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਹਤ ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰ ਦੱਸਿਆ। ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਆਗੂ ਐਰਨ ਓਟੂਲ ਨੇ ਜਸਟਿਨ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਤੇ ਕਈ ਗੰਭੀਰ ਇਲਜ਼ਾਮ ਲਗਾਏ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਅਜਿਹੇ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਲੋਚਨਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਿਨਾਂ ਪੂਰੇ ਟੀਕਾਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਸੀਨੀਅਰਸ ਹੋਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਰੇ ਫਿਰਦੇ ਨੇ।
I've spent the last 34 days traveling the length and breadth of this incredible country. It's been my privilege to speak to hundreds of thousands of Canadians. If there's one thing I hear over and over from everyone, from all walks of life, is that things must change. We cannot carry on the way we're going. The country can't afford more division. We can't afford more of the same. A lot of Canadians, too many Canadians, are scared. Prices are out of control. Spending is out of control. Secure jobs are harder to find. When they look to the future, they're not filled with hope. They're frightened. They're worried. When they look to the future, they don't see a home being affordable. They don't see a pension. They don't see security. They see only endless struggle. Not everyone can make a living on Zoom calls. Avec moi, personne ne sera laissé pour compte dans ce pays. Jamais. Présentement, les gens ressentent de la peur. Ils éprouvent aussi de la colère. Une grande partie de cette colère est justifiée. It will never be acceptable to me that anyone in this country be left behind. Never. Fear isn't the only thing people are feeling. There's anger too, and much of it justified. There's a lot of people in this country who are angry at Mr. Trudeau. He only wants to talk about the protesters because it suits him. But there are millions more that are upset with him. Decent, hard-working people who are struggling with higher prices, who are tired of his pious lectures and hypocrisy, especially when it comes to ethics, health, or his feminist credentials.
ਵਧੇਰੇ ਖਤਰਨਾਕ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਵੇਰੀਐਂਟ ਨੇ ਰੀਓਪਨਿੰਗ ਪਲਾਨਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਪਾਣੀ ਫੇਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈ। ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਕੁੱਲ ਆਬਾਦੀ 70% ਦੀ ਵੈਕਸੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਵਾ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਦੇ ਪਸਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣ ਲਈ ਫੂਕ ਕੇ ਕਦਮ ਰੱਖ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੈਸਟੋਰੈਂਟ ਜਾਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਬਹੁਤੇ ਲੋਕ ਇੰਡੋਰ ਜਾਂ ਆਊਟਡੋਰ ਡਾਈਨਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਲੋਕਲ ਪਾਬੰਦੀਆਂ ਅਪਲਾਈ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ।
here at the Vancouver Convention Centre, wrapping up what has been 2 weeks of the Union of BC Municipalities annual conference, where representatives from communities across BC, local government leaders, regional directors come together to raise issues of concern with each other and also, of course, with the provincial government. It's always a productive time for local government. It's always a productive time for the provincial government as well, because we're able to compare notes, look at where the challenges are, and find common purpose and ways to bring forward positive solutions. So I want to lift my hands to Brian Frankel, the outgoing president of UBCM, and wish him all the best as he goes back to regular duties on his Vanderhoof Council, and all the best to the incoming leadership as they plot a course for municipalities right across British Columbia. And with that, I'll ask Lindsay to go from here.
Thanks, everybody. As a reminder to everybody on the phone line, please press *1 to enter the queue. First question today is from Binder Sajjan, CTV.
Yeah, well, we had Premier Kenny and I have been colleagues for, well, I've been in this job for 4 years. I think he's been in the Alberta seat for the past 2 years. I've taken over the leadership of the Council of Federations, so I've been canvassing premiers across the country on a range of issues. But of course, critical for our discussions this morning, Premier Kenny and I were getting a sense from him on what the challenges are he and Albertans face as the fourth wave hits particularly hard in Alberta. Minister Dix has spoken with his opposite number. We have staff engaged all the time between our two jurisdictions, finding ways to ensure that healthcare services can be delivered in the most effective way to those who need them. The challenges in Alberta right now are stark. Premier Kenny and I both agreed that the way forward for Alberta and for British Columbia, and indeed all of Canada, is to increase our vaccination rates. BC's numbers are very good, significantly higher than Alberta's, but on border communities in the Peace Country,
ओंटारियो ਦੀ ਸਿਹਤ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਸਟੀਨ ਇਲੀਅਟ ਨੇ 8 ਨਵੀਆਂ ਟੀਮਾਂ ਦਾ ਗਠਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਅਗਲੇ 2 ਵਿੱਤੀ ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੌਰਾਨ 9 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਤੱਕ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਪ੍ਰਦਾਨ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਵੇਗੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਿਹਤ ਸੇਵਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਲਮੇਲ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਨਵੀਆਂ ਯੋਜਨਾਵਾਂ ਉਲੀਕੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ।
Much, Pat, and for your kind introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to extend my deepest condolences to the family and friends of the child in Waterloo region who passed away due to COVID-19. This is a truly tragic situation, and not only is it a heartbreaking loss for the community, it's also a devastating reminder of the serious consequences of COVID. My thoughts and prayers are with all of the friends and family at this time. So it is great to be here, though, in Hastings County with my good friend and colleague, Minister Todd Smith. Unfortunately, MPP Cramp was not able to join us today, but he's certainly with us in spirit, and he sends his best wishes and congratulations. I would also like to thank the team at Gateway Community Health Centre for hosting us, and I hope I'll be able to have a tour before I leave. I would also like to thank the many healthcare workers at Gateway and in the community for their continued dedication to providing exceptional care for patients throughout the COVID-19 epidemic. Long before any of us had ever heard of COVID-19, remember those days? I can just barely myself. But our government did make a commitment to end hallway health care and build a better, connected healthcare system that is based on the needs of patients and families. From this goal formed the vision for Ontario Health Teams, which bring together healthcare providers to work as one team. This new model of care breaks down long-standing barriers and allows providers to deliver better, faster, more coordinated, and truly patient-centered care. The COVID-19 pandemic has just highlighted the importance of this work. Throughout the pandemic, the province's 42 Ontario health teams have set up assessment centers, launched virtual care initiatives, and rolled out vaccines.
ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਭਵਨ ਵਾਈਟ ਹਾਊਸ ਨੇ ਸਾਫ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੇ ਬਰਤਾਨੀਆ ਨਾਲ ਨਵਾਂ 3-ਪੱਖੀ ਗੱਠਜੋੜ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਮਕਸਦ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ, ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੇ ਬਰਤਾਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਰਣਨੀਤਿਕ ਹਿੱਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹਿੰਦ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਂਤ ਖੇਤਰ 'ਚ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਤੇ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਆ ਨੂੰ ਬੜਾਵਾ ਦੇਣਾ, ਕੌਮਾਂਤਰੀ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਆਧਾਰਿਤ ਵਿਵਸਥਾ ਬਣਾਈ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਹੈ।
Our purpose, as you know, is to strengthen our collective response to the climate crisis. No challenge will have a more significant impact on the world or require a greater level of international cooperation. And no challenge ranks higher on the list of global priorities for this administration. Since we convened this group in April at the Leaders Summit, the international scientific community has issued a stark warning. Last month, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, in a report that all our governments reviewed and embraced, presented the irrefutable evidence of the crisis now upon us. As context for our discussion today, I just wanted to highlight a few key findings. First, the report included important measures of how we're already altered our climate. There's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today than there has been in 2 million years. As a result, the planet is warming rapidly. As we strive to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, we now know that we have already seen temperatures rise 1.1 degrees Celsius. Second, the report looked at how this is already affecting life on Earth. Every area of the planet is now impacted by climate change. Many of the extraordinary weather events we've recently experienced would have been, and I quote, virtually impossible without human-induced warming. Finally, we know what's needed now. To keep warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius over the long term, emissions must fall rapidly this decade, and they must reach net zero around 2050. The good news is this. According to the IPCC, if we do what's required, global temperatures will stabilize in just a couple of decades. We can avert the worst potential consequences of the crisis. That's our charge now. The science is clear, and it's up to the countries assembled here today to lead a decisive global response. With that, it's now my honor to introduce the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
It's good to
ਹੈਲਥ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਫਾਈਜ਼ਰ ਬਾਇਓਨਟੈਕ ਤੇ ਮੋਡਰਨਾ ਦੀ mRNA ਵੈਕਸੀਨ ਨੂੰ 12 ਸਾਲ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਨਜ਼ੂਰੀ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਐਲਾਨ ਉਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਵੈਕਸੀਨਸ ਦੇ ਅੰਤਰਿਮ ਆਰਡਰ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਪ੍ਰੀ ਕਲੀਨਿਕਸ ਤੇ ਕਲੀਨਿਕ ਡਾਟਾ ਦੇ ਆਧਾਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਹੁਕਮਾਂ ਤਹਿਤ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਮਹਾਮਾਰੀ ਤੋਂ ਬਚਾਅ ਲਈ ਜਲਦ ਤੋਂ ਜਲਦ ਵੰਡਿਆ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ। ਫਾਈਜ਼ਰ ਬਾਇਓਨਟੈਕ ਵੈਕਸੀਨ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਲਈ ਆਰਡਰ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਗਏ ਸਨ। ਹਾਲਾਂਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਦੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵੈਕਸੀਨੇਟ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਬਾਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਨਫੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਭਰਤੀ ਹੋਣ ਦੀ ਦਰ ਤੇਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਧ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ।